What do you think of the farmer that is struggling to make money in a commodity-based system that now decides one way that I can increase the value of my land, or at least the product coming off my land, is to get it certified organic and start selling organic?
Well, I think there's definitely an organic niche for food, and it's because people are willing to pay more money, and so it's an obvious market trend to do it. So if it's a better way to make money for the farm, then they should consider what they need to do it. I'm in favor of organic farmers who do it right and take on the challenge and are doing what's necessary to do it. The problems that I have are that some of the guys say, well, our organic food is healthier. Okay, it's not healthier. And in fact, there could be evidence that it's less healthy because of the bacterial and fungal infections and the toxins they have, not to speak of the organic fertilizers, manures, and stuff contaminate with bacteria and systems. So if it's not washed and it's not clean, it could spawn more problems. So the healthier thing is a problem for me. It's good food, and if it's done right, it should be in the market, and it's a good thing that they get paid more for it. But the fact is, less drugs, less pesticide in it, that's not true either. There are a number of compounds that organic guys have okayed to use that are terribly toxic materials because they're natural. They're allowed to use them. And some of them, like copper sulfate, are terribly toxic to the environment, and they're allowed to use. So the idea that there's no pesticides or no chemical control whatsoever is wrong too, so it's a lie. And so I disagree with that, not that they need to do it, just that they assert, in their advertising that it's safe and clean. So I don't have a problem with them doing the things they need to do to have a good crop. I have a problem with the misguided definition of it, what it is when it's not that.
My biggest problem with it is a matter of integrity, and I don't see a way around it. And that is one of the big reasons that retailers can charge more for it is that people have been made to feel like the organic is either pesticide free or it's somehow, like you said, healthier, more nutritional. And so the people that are making more money off of that are making more money as a result of marketing that has been done to people that now become afraid of the traditional food or the conventionally grown food. And also, like, by taking those margins, by making more money, you're giving up part of your margins to a marketing campaign that continues that cycle. And you could say, well, I'm not doing that, but there's no other situation that we sit and let people say, you can profit off of somebody else telling lies about your thing and still say that's okay. I'm not facing losing my farm. I don't have any of those pressures on me. But when I see it, it's hard for me to square that. I really struggle with saying that that's not a matter of integrity.
Well, I don't know. And so then there's a third part, and that's the labor. So you can only spend so much money to produce these crops. And if you're not going to use chemistry to control the diseases and the insects and the weeds, then you have to use fingers. And my daughter went to live on an organic farm.
Did she really?
And, she worked for 3 months. She lived in a barn over a chicken coop. They had an outside latrine and an outside shower. Okay. So yes, the food was produced because they went through it and they picked everything and hoed everything and did all the work by hand for like $9 an hour. And they worked ferociously long hours, dragged it all into Chevy Chase farmer's market and sold it for $5 a pound for tomatoes, making thousands of dollars for the farmer. So who could sustain that? Well, he figured out a way to sustain it by inviting college students to experience the organic farm system. So students were, perpetually signing up to come there to work for a month to find out what it was like. Okay. So he had an itinerant group that were dedicated to his cause, that he could pay a substandard labor to, who were willing to live in substandard living conditions to provide a product that he was going to make money on. Now, so where did the integrity go there? And so I complained to my daughter that this wasn't sustainable, that the workers' lives were being taken advantage of. And she said, well, there was a farmer next door who tried to build a dormitory and so forth for his workers to live in, but he went bankrupt because he couldn't afford to provide those facilities. So everywhere in this organic market, if you're not going to use modern chemical ag, then what are you using instead? You could use plastic, so that's a good alternative, but it's not so good for the environment. So there's a kind of a contradiction there.
Meaning that you cover over all of the ground that isn't where the plant is coming up that's got the crop, and then the weeds underneath just can't grow.
You could use mulch. So what happens to the mulch and why do you replace it? Well, because it's mineralized to CO2. So we're all trying to conserve CO2. So you can shade out the weeds by putting down mulch. But what about the other diseases, fungal diseases and insects? They have to be picked off, or something. So I just think it's a little disingenuous that for an organic farmer, even if he's doing it right, to the margins, I guess the large scale guys who are trying to do it right have figured out how to manage the labor and the growing conditions, so that they can make a profit at the higher price. And that should be good if they can. But I'm afraid there's too much slave labor, or worse, and
worse than slave labor.
I think people who can't get free of it, so this is your only option, and you have to work hard, and you get some meager amount of money, and you can't, not even enough to get away from it,
Yeah, I one time had a chance to go down to Yuma, Arizona, where that's right on the border, and about 80% of the salad vegetables that we eat in the United States from February through, I think, April or May comes from that area. And I saw in the morning, we went to the border crossing where they have Mexican citizens come across the border with papers, and then they go to their work sites and they work. And I was like, this would be terrible. That would be really awful work. And I think it would be really tough. But we got to talk with the workers there, and they're like, this is so much better to have your papers and be able to come across the border and work here is 100 times better than working in a farm in Mexico.
Well, that's right. And so it seems like a good thing, but it's still not fair. I mean, they should still pay a fair wage, not a Mexican wage. That's just lying and cheating and stealing in a different way at someone else's expense. And those people work terribly hard.
Bent over cutting lettuce was just an insane
I don't think
thing.
Most of Americans could understand even what it's like to work one day as a migrant worker.
I think an hour would and that's not me being hyperbolic. When I was watching them bend over and cut the lettuce, it struck me that just the very act of doing that would be harder than any CrossFit workout that most people do. Like, that's no joke.
Well, and so they work very, very hard. And so you're right. And so it's worse in northern Mexico, where farms are growing organic foods that they ship to California for a high price, and the workers are treated worse. So it's hard for me to come to terms with that. I want to be supportive. I go to the grocery store for this weekend. I bought a bunch of salad, mixed green salad, says organic. So it's probably produced in a large-scale greenhouse-like, highly controlled condition, probably highly mechanized, washed several times, and then cleaned up and packaged all automatically. So somebody has made a huge investment in equipment to provide that, I suspect. And that's just a miracle of ag, the way they do that. But if those greenhouses get some kind of a fungus infection, and they can lose a lot of the crop pretty quickly, the whole process of sterilizing it and re-cleaning it and maintaining it again becomes extremely difficult.